Welcome to Birding Conversations. I'm excited for today's episode. Birding Conversations is the platform where we discuss moms, any things that are related to birth, after birth, pregnancy, and all family related stuff that we may don't want to talk about. And it's important to speak about them and express them and talk about them. So today's guest is, I have the honor to sit here with Rivky Friedman.
Hi.
Hi, Rivky. So Rivky is a mom, a wife, a grandmother, a health coach. She's very into self-help and self-development. And she's also a postpartum survivor. We're going to have a very exciting episode where we can look back and share and give other moms the tools and understanding how to go about when they are hit with symptoms. Even not everyone has the same, so it's not a one size fits all, but I believe that we can get a lot out of this episode, and I'm very honored and excited for it.
Thank you.
Hi, Rivky. So, Rivky, let's go back a minute and tell me back when you got to know me through Sparks. Let's go back to those moments.
Oh my God. Do I really have to remember that now?
If you want to.
So yeah, I want to, because if I can even help one person make a difference in their lives, then it's all worth it.
Yeah, that is very kind of you.
Thank you. So I won't forget that moment when I reached out to you. So basically I was in a new marriage. So I had kids from before, and my daughter, who was born at that time, was the new product from the marriage, new marriage at that time. So there was a lot of adjustments to begin with. So after actually a very difficult pregnancy, thank God I gave birth, a healthy, beautiful girl. And I just, thought of, okay, everything is just going great, until I think it was about 2 weeks in after she was born. I was just not feeling good, really not feeling good. And I was not feeling good physically as well. It's normal to be tired after birth. So I want to get that clear. Correct. I think it was even later. Maybe it was even a month into it, or even more than that. I think it was even more than that it hit me, because at 2 weeks, I would consider it being very normal to be tired. So it was past the time that I would expect to feel better.
We call it the regular baby blues.
Correct. It was past the time where I would say, okay, like I shouldn't really be feeling that bad. It's like dragging. And besides feeling depressed, which I didn't even know I was depressed, I had no energy. I was excited to have this cute little baby girl, but I was feeling extremely overwhelmed and physically not good. I was spending my days in bed. Stomach aches, headaches, everything was hurting me. I felt sick. Right. Not right, exactly. And I was new to Brooklyn, because I didn't live in Brooklyn before. I lived in Muncie prior. And I remember talking to a neighbor, and I called her out innocently, and I said, you know what? Do you know of a doctor that I can go to, because I just am not feeling well? And luckily, she had been at a Sparks awareness meeting or something. And she says, you know what? The night before, correct. Yes. And she said, and also people try to be very sensitive. They don't want to make you feel bad. So she's like, it's worth giving a try. I'm just coming from this meeting, and what you're saying sounds like postpartum depression. And I'm like, but what do you mean? But I don't feel good. I'm not depressed. I just don't feel good. And she's like, check it out. But I still, I was keeping to myself. I need a regular doctor, which sometimes you do.
True.
Because I just don't feel good. Anyway, maybe it was a week or a couple of days, I don't remember, when it hit me like really bad. I'll never forget.
Worse than
it wasn't just not feeling good. Correct. It was emotionally, it hit me very bad. I got extremely overwhelmed. I didn't know how I was going to cope another minute. Everything hit me at once, physically, emotionally. It was a very scary moment. It was a really scary moment.
Very scary.
And that's when I found that number.
And that's when you called.
And I called you, and I never forget, I started crying. And I remember even feeling ashamed for crying. And you were so amazing on the phone. You were calming me down. You were telling me that it's normal. And that's where my journey to healing started.
That's when it began.
That's when it began.
And Rivky, this is so brave of you to bring these points out, because I'm sure there are a lot of moms that are listening or watching us, and they say, I feel the same, but I didn't know. I didn't know what that means. And as I mentioned before, the regular baby blues could last 2 weeks, but they cannot be severe.
Correct.
And they cannot last for longer. And then there's a lot of confusion between those two.
Right.
And it's important not to confuse them.
Correct.
If it's severe, and it's not just about, my husband got me hummus, really, I want the tuna.
Right.
Like, I'm sleep deprived, like everything to a normal extent. And going back to you, if I remember correctly, thank God you did have financially the help you needed.
I did.
So it's not, which we can see how much this can be hormonal. It's not about, okay, no one can help me here. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be, I can have all the help. I can have what it takes to get all the help, and I can still not feel well.
When I reached out to you and you started sending me some, in those days we had the DVD, videos, and I remember popping it into the video machine and sitting there and watching. As it was actually Dr. Twersky. Yes. And a woman sharing her journey.
Right.
And the first moment when I realized that I'm not crazy and I'm not alone, that already, I'm not going to say was the solution, but
it's a big deal.
It was. Absolutely.
It's a big deal, because that feeling of being alone and loneliness, and I'm the only one in the world that's going that through.
Yes.
And also, which, if you want to talk about that, if it's, I don't know if I'm saying that from memory or it's something that I'm guessing, comes in that guilt, that motherhood guilt.
Yeah, because I have a gorgeous, healthy girl, and I love baby girls. I mean, I love my teenager as well, but, it was exciting for me. My son at that time was 16, and my daughter before that was 18.
So that was a big,
it was a big gap also. And all the, I love the baby girls and the pinks and the bows and all that stuff. So I was really looking forward to that. And as I said, I had the help, and I actually have a sweet, supportive husband, but he was totally lost. He didn't know what happened. And in fact, my mom even flew in from Israel to come help me. And everyone was lost together. I mean, I'm laughing now, but it wasn't pretty all the time. It wasn't pretty. No.
Then wasn't pretty.
It wasn't. And like you're saying, and I kept feeling guilty because I have everything I need. But why am I feeling that way? Why am I not happy? Why, when I look at my adorable little baby and her gorgeous carriage,
and it's hard to bond.
I couldn't even bond. I couldn't appreciate her. I couldn't connect. So that's still painful when I talk about it.
Right. It's a painful moment, but
more than one moment.
More than one moment.
Yes.
Thank God it's something that could be repaired, which I always tell moms. You couldn't bond, which, not every mom, but a nice amount of moms that are saying that they have a very hard time bonding. And I always tell them, it's never too late.
No, thank God. She got older, it got better. We bonded.
Yeah.
I think we're best friends if she ever gets to see this. And I love her dearly.
It's totally repairable, which is good news.
Yeah.
But at the same, but it takes the work to repair.
Absolutely.
It takes the work.
Yeah.
It's not just, that's from the experience I see. It could take work. Again, not a one size fits all, but it could take work. And what is nice is being able to admit this has been my situation at the moment, and I know I can breathe into it. I can recognize it. And then we're going to focus in a bit about the journey to healing, which is a very big one.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Look at you.
Thank God.
You are the example.
Thank God.
That there is light
Absolutely.
at the end of the tunnel.
And in fact, now that I know what postpartum is, after my third was born, which he's, I'm going to give away my age if I say his age, but it was 30 years ago. Nobody knew. There was no Sparks organization. There was nothing. Nobody had a clue. But because I can recognize the symptoms and the pattern, I definitely had postpartum depression then as well.
You just didn't know.
I had no clue. And somehow, by some
you were a
miracle,
lucky girl to get out of it.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but somehow I pulled through.
Going a little bit back to so many years ago, actually, and since then I have to say you have been helping so many moms.
Thank you.
Just because of the journey that you took with yourself.
Correct.
And if you want to share with us as much as you want to share about your journey, how you realized other things, which is sometimes part of postpartum, that other stuff come out, which is maybe things that have been hurting. And yes, it is very hormonal, but at times when hormones change and a woman is more vulnerable, it's kind of invites for things to come up to the surface.
Absolutely. And that I only learned way later on. That, and I don't know if it's in all cases, but usually,
each one is individual.
Right. Usually, if you have a little bit of a background of challenges and stuff that hasn't been worked through, giving birth is just a container to open up for these things to escalate.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah. Definitely. So, and obviously, once you go for healing, you start healing and you heal, it becomes a long journey of healing. Absolutely.
You
absolutely.
peel off layers.
Yeah. So it's a journey. I mean, it's still a journey. We're all a work in progress. There's always more to enhance and grow. And I'm just, ever since then, and even before, I was into like self-awareness, but as you say, that onion must have been really big. And so
that makes sense to you, that
for sure,
can have moms that like old stuff pop up
all the time. I can say almost every client that I had who suffered from depression, postpartum depression, there's a past. Very few can say, oh wow, I just had the perfect childhood, everything was great, and it just came hormonally. It could happen too.
Yeah, it could happen.
But a big but, when that happens to people like that, it's so much easier to heal, because you're just dealing with what is now. You're dealing with hormones that are not settled, and they can much easier get back to like the body to what they call it, a homeostasis place.
I would say that from my experience of so many years, we really cannot make clear. I wish we would have a clear data. We don't. It makes sense what you say. I wouldn't say that we can take that on every mom. I have this young Syrian mother that she had everything, but going back to her childhood, there wasn't really, like everyone can find things that, no one's life is perfect.
No.
But I can't say nothing major.
Right.
And she was sick to the extent, and what was painful in that situation, that the doctor just kept telling her, go home and have another baby. There is nothing wrong with you. And that's how she kept going. And after the fourth child, she was at the edge of psychosis, because those hormones were so not balanced and they weren't recognized. And here you're talking about like one of the most famous OBGYNs that charges a lot of money and is all private practice, and he didn't recognize
They're not trained.
He
They're
just
really
said,
not trained.
go home and have another baby. You're young and fresh. There is nothing wrong with you.
When I went to my gynecologist, though, during my pregnancy, and I remember telling him the whole time, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling so down. Everything is so dark.
Already in pregnancy.
Yes. And I'm usually the type of person who I make myself happy and pull myself out. I couldn't. The world was dark. For real. And he's like, nah. And he's kept saying, nah. Like, it's nothing. You'll see, I'll get better. I wish they would have I wish I would have had therapy then. I wish I would have
awareness.
At least that. At least that. Nothing.
Understanding.
Nothing.
And what I always say to moms, and I'm sure you say the same, is it's nothing wrong with you as a person, as a mother, as your character, as your personality. This is something outside of you.
But it becomes enmeshed, especially the longer you live with it. It's hard to say who am I and who's the depression, who's the anxiety, because it almost feels like it becomes part of your DNA.
Right.
Because, it's hard to separate. But once you learn to separate it, and it doesn't have such an effect on your self-esteem, on your confidence, and all that.
Self-stigma.
Yeah.
Let's not even go to the stigma of the world, but the self-stigma, like the way you see yourself.
But that you should know, a lot of people, let's say you're saying that they had a great childhood, right? And there wasn't much. The fact alone that their hormones start going a little out of balance and they start feeling bad about themselves, that alone could throw someone off the edge.
Yes, psychologically.
Yes, because they start feeling bad about themselves. Like, what's wrong with me? And they talk negative to themselves all the time, and you don't need much.
Right. Going back to you with your third child, you felt something. How about the two others?
Not
any memory of that.
I mean, first is a first. It was overwhelming. Can't really say. I don't know if I'd call it depression, but I remember feeling very overwhelmed. I remember, as a new mom, and I was friends with another new mom, and when she needed to go get out of the house, she was out in like 10 minutes, and it took me forever. Like I couldn't get myself together. So I did have a little bit of a harder time.
Like overwhelmed.
And I can
adjusting maybe also to motherhood, which is not
I had
easy.
a very hard time adjusting. The transition, I think, with each child was just hard to begin with. And it is hard.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. People think like, okay, you're pregnant and you have a baby and you continue. It doesn't.
You're just pregnant.
It doesn't work
like
that. People are not even giving themselves that like space to like. I just carried a human being. I gave birth. Like
it's
my
body
went
to
through
the body.
Whichever way you want to look at it. You should know, even in the United States, it's so not recognized and appreciated. I know in the UK, I've read a lot about it. Like they give you a lot more after birth care.
We spoke about it in previous episodes.
Yeah, and it's so unfair.
The United States is one of the, not the worst.
Here it's like, oh, wow, you have a baby. Oh, wow, and you look so great and whatever. And then how do you think other moms will feel if they don't look so great or they're not put together right away? Then they start feeling bad about themselves. And that alone could cause depression and whatnot. Right. You don't have to have a horrible past even.
Right. I agree with every word you say. And also, I like where you're pointing out the transitioning with every child.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if it doesn't have to be a full depression or an anxiety
it's a very hard
or
transition.
past trauma, which is one of the postpartum situations that can happen. So it's still transitioning for itself is still a thing.
Absolutely.
Don't just don't make it into nothing.
It's not. It's like people don't realize what it takes.
Let's talk about your journey to healing. What would you say that looked like, and the layers of that, and something that you really want to give moms to take away, even if they're not equal to you, because no one is equal, but there are still some points that can be very helpful that you would like to share.
So basically it started with seeing a therapist, and I worked with her for a while. We did I remember one thing was very helpful for me, especially for people who go through trauma. They have this thing called EMDR. It's like an eye movement exercise. Right. I found that to be very helpful.
Yeah, to some it's very, very helpful. Yeah.
So you start, therapy is the basic. Then the support. The support is huge.
System.
The support system. And for me, it was, I got the support from Sparks.
Right.
So that was major. Like somebody I remember for a while would check in and see how I was doing. So that helped a lot. It was a slow process.
Did you find the diet helped you?
To be honest, I did. I definitely did. I tried being more careful what I eat. I took tons of vitamins. I think one of the first things is my mother ran out and got me like tons of vitamins.
Which I'm not such a
It wasn't
fan of that.
magic. I did.
Meaning I believe in vitamins, but I believe more that they should be really customized and matched.
Right.
To what
so she did that. She went to a specialist and spoke to him and all that. I did take a little bit of antidepressant for about 2 years.
Yeah.
So
which is nothing bad, nothing wrong with that.
No, I was on a low dose actually. That helped. That helped a lot. It's not worth struggling and trying without it. It's not worth it.
If it's
because you can go off it. It's not a forever thing.
It's also not addictive, and it depends on of course to each situation to its own. But I always say if medicines is needed and they help, then it can be a blessing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very into like my coaching. I call myself holistic because I believe in the whole body, and I believe to go with healthy eating and exercising and vitamins and herbs and homeopathics all before medicine. But sometimes medicine is needed, and I'm definitely...
And sometimes there is no time to wait for all that. Medicine is needed.
Medicine takes time to kick in too.
So they give something that kicks in right away before that kicks in.
Right,
so
like
that's why
on
I
the
think every situation is
But
different.
Definitely, without a doubt, being on a healthier diet makes a huge difference. It's not going to cure it, but it makes a huge difference because when you load up on sugar and carbs and junk, it just, you don't feel good.
Even without being pregnant.
Yeah, there's nothing, in regular. For sure.
It's foods which...
And fresh air and exercise, especially for new moms. Hopefully if they can give, depends when they give birth. Winter is hard. Winter is hard for everybody. But just the fact that, like, put that baby in a stroller and just go for a walk every day.
Natural vitamin D into
every day. That's a must. That's such a huge, crucial part on healing.
It's also that pressure of, like you mentioned before, that some moms want to be back a size 2 or 4 right after birth, which is
that alone can cause depression.
Which alone is the pressure of that.
Yes, it's so unfair.
So peer pressure.
Yes, women have to start like embracing it. I'm a new mom. I just gave birth. I'm not supposed to look like a model again. I'm a mommy model, and embrace it. And wear your maternity clothes, which I think I did for a while, because it takes time. It takes time.
And giving yourself permission to take that time.
Yes, that is so important. I wish I had that knowledge back then. It would save me so much anxiety you can't even imagine. Because I was also, I gotta lose the weight. And I was so miserable on the weight situation alone. I'm telling you, half of the depression was contributed to that. It was huge for me. I was so miserable.
So you're saying you can see it, in your case, you can see it situational, combined with
hormonal, yes.
Combined with past trauma that came up.
Yes.
All that, also being in a new marriage.
Yes. In a new place. I moved to a new city.
I always say, don't move in pregnancy.
No.
Don't move after birth.
It's
don't
true.
Make changes.
So true.
Don't change your job. Don't change your husband.
Oh my God. I did everything.
Don't do all those things at that time of your life.
I did everything, plus remodel the house during pregnancy. Oh my gosh.
So
it was not normal.
That alone can contribute a lot.
It did. I wish I would know that.
You mentioned before that your husband is a good person.
Yes.
But you didn't know.
No, I had no clue.
Now what got him to know?
The support. Once we saw, I think you guys had a video for husbands.
We did.
Yes, and he watched that.
And he watched it.
He sure did. And he was like, oh, okay. So he started understanding. And he was being very sweet. Like he would try to bring me up something to drink. And like if I got into a major like panic attack or something, he knew already what to bring, what to give me, tell me to breathe. So yeah, it was definitely helpful that he knew what was going on.
We have an episode separate for, we call it postpartum for husbands, which they can get even sick with postpartum psychologically.
Yeah,
but we also talk a lot about them being for their wives. And when I look and I watch even your body language, and you go back about your husband bringing you the drink and know how to deal with your breathing. So I can see it like firsthand watching you, even going so many years back, how the husband being there makes a big difference.
Oh my goodness. Huge. Huge.
So this is for all the husbands to listen.
Yeah,
and
because
take
if
in.
you don't have support, it's like you're really alone, and that alone can throw you over the edge. Feeling alone and not having support, it's like one of the worst things. Like,
we want to wrap this up and go back and think about in your journey of recovery, and you did take the time, and I know you took all the effort, and you also, just like you look, you're so colorful. That's your personality.
Thank you. Yes.
And that's your looks. And that's what you also utilize in your way of healing.
Yes.
You go to very different methods.
Yes.
And you combine them. That's why it's so designed for you to be a holistic coach.
Exactly.
Because this is who you are as a person.
Right. So
what is it?
So I don't have one thing. It's like when people ask me what did it, I can't say one thing. It's everything. It's the therapy, the little bit of medication, the healthy eating, the vitamins and herbs and whatnot I tried. I even tried, meditation.
Meditation can be powerful.
Sometimes, but I have to put a caution here. When a person is very depressed, meditation is not a good idea because it puts them even lower. Yeah. To the support.
So everyone, it's like what you're telling me here with the meditation, which is, I hear it. What I think is that it's important to understand that even when you try something and it doesn't work for you, that's okay.
Exactly.
So I try to be mindful and meditate. So even maybe it can relax someone else. It can get me very edgy.
And
so that's okay.
Right. And a very important point to make is if someone tried something and it didn't work, that doesn't mean that in a month from now or 2 months from now or a year from now, it might work for you then. Right. Not everything works for everybody at every time.
Correct.
So that's very important to remember. It's really a trial and error. Like I almost call it like a toolbox. Like it would be a nice thing to make like a new.
You can design that.
Not a bad idea. I'm gonna think of that, like a new mommy toolbox.
A pink
one. Definitely pink. And maybe blue for the one who have voice. Yes, because it's almost like you need to pick the right tool for the right time. Like maybe now I need a nap. Maybe now I need a walk. Maybe now I need a good meal. Maybe now I need to talk to someone. Maybe now I need a good cry.
Right.
That is part of the healing. And people feel so bad. I cried. Something's wrong with me. No, God gave you tears for a reason. Crying is very cleansing. And a little trick is while you cry, don't feel bad that I'm crying. Like I'm crying because that's what I need to do right now. That was a huge game changer for me, by the way.
Sometimes it scares the husband when his wife cries.
Right. So it's
about them to understand.
Yeah.
Like be there and let
exactly
let
at this point in my life, which thank God I've done so much healing, and I still have a time where I feel I need to cry, and then be there to support me.
You're very expressive,
yes,
which is important.
That's another thing. But
it's a gift.
I thank you, yes, but I also coach women, and I helped a lot of women being more expressive, asking for their needs. That you can teach these stuff. So in summarizing, right. So it's not one thing. It's literally a toolbox of so many different things that
and
you
I
need.
like when you said that different women can use different tools at different times.
Correct.
That's a big one to
right,
remember.
People get fed up. I try this, I try that, nothing helps. Maybe it didn't help now.
Therapy, therapy is like a matchmaker.
Yeah.
It has to work.
Correct.
It doesn't always match.
Correct.
And then I tell moms, if this therapist didn't work for you, that does not mean the therapy doesn't work for you.
Right.
It means that it's maybe time to try someone else.
Very
a different approach, a different method.
Yes.
And also these days we know something which we maybe didn't know back then, that even with EMDR and with trauma, we do not necessarily have to talk about the trauma.
Correct.
We can just go around it and heal it in a way
without
expressing.
Right, because there is ways. They have cranial sacral therapy, which is great.
In the somatic work, there is a lot of work today.
Yeah, a lot more today.
To do, even with EMDR, which we didn't know back then.
Right.
So there are a lot of changes.
Yes.
But with that said, what is it if you want to look at the ultimate healing in the perinatal world? What is it that you would want to see?
I would love to see more awareness from women to women, and even at the OBGYN, like the
OBGYN.
Right, the doctors. They don't know. They're not educated. Actually, I think Sparks did a very good thing. I heard they were giving around pamphlets and they took it to hospitals.
Yeah.
Because someone mentioned to me that.
And we educate doctors.
That is amazing.
We train them.
That's like,
we actually train them.
That's a huge gift. I think the awareness is number one. And once you're aware, you can take precautions earlier.
Yes.
So if someone already is feeling depressed.
Knowledge is priceless.
Correct. And powerful once you have the knowledge. So if someone is already feeling depressed, never mind before they get pregnant, watch out and take care of it. It's not this thing like people, oh, I'll have a baby, everything will be fixed. Oh, babies don't fix anything.
Marriage is not a hospital. And like it's a lot of there are still those old beliefs in some people that they think, okay, so if things are going on, okay, I'll get married, it's all gonna solve.
No.
Marriage is not a hospital. Having babies
is not a marriage saver.
Is not a marriage savior.
No, it makes it worse. If your marriage is not good.
If the marriage is
not
good.
If you have a good marriage,
worse,
children bring beautiful joy, and it's a beautiful thing, and that's what you want to do.
Could make it worse.
But people have to be in a healthy state. You can't just. I feel personally, you have to be responsible. And ask me, hey, weren't you responsible? I'll be honest with you. I cried a lot. I was afraid to be a mom again. And I didn't think I was ready for it. But that's the choice I made. And I'm very grateful.
With the best of the knowledge.
I'm very grateful. And more so that I can make a difference now and tell women, like, doesn't mean you can never have a child. But I wish I would have known. Again, I didn't know then. If I was there now, get your therapy, do your healing before you bring the child to the world.
Yeah.
If that's possible, definitely recommend it.
If you would have known, you would have done it.
Yeah.
So you did the best you were able at that point and at that time.
Absolutely. But now when I'm past that, I would suggest if somebody's going through or went through trauma and they want to become a new mom, heal before you have that child. And you'll have children, and you can have many children, God willing. But just heal yourself first. And that's my message.
Yes. Good message, Rivky. And we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here today. It was an honor and a pleasure, and it passed so quick.
I know.
It's like, really?
We can go on. I know. We can go on and on because there's so much. Yeah.
So, for so much longer.
For sure.
But this, I feel, was very, very valuable, and I want to very, very much thank you for that.
You're welcome.